Okay, guys, let's start. Okay, so welcome back. I'll refresh your memories a little. We were working on our first class example. So I'm showing you how to create a form. I told you what program.cs was, how behind the scenes everything is linked. So you're creating a GUI by drag and drop. You're doing it the easy way. Behind the scenes, a designer.cs file is being created for you, which is converting everything that you're doing into code, right? So as a programmer, you must understand that file. You won't have to maybe hardly touch it if you don't make a mistake. Sometimes we make mistakes and we'll go and have to rectify that. But if you don't make any mistakes at all in your GUI, you don't have to ever go back and even look at that file. But again, I would like you to be aware that the designer.cs is the code that is being created for you behind the scenes as you create your GUI on the front end. So we'll always do that, but we'll keep in mind, oh, there it is. Once you start writing the event handlers, remember those special methods that handle the events with a particular control, and a control is, a button is an example of a control. That linking is also done in the designer file. So there is where I would like to maybe draw your attention. See, here is where the linking is being done. So there is no magic anywhere. Keep in mind, no magic anywhere. You as a programmer should know what's going on in your code so that you exactly know where do I go and see if I encounter a problem, right? So this is where we left off last week. If you don't have it, please go and look for it on GitHub. So on GitHub, if you search me by my name, Anju Chawla, you should find this lesson. And I can't remember what it was called, but it should have something like Lesson 1 Thursday F2017, right? So it should have the fall 2017. It could have your RAD or it could have COMP1004. It will say Thursday and it will say Lesson 1. That's what I had called it here, if you remember. I've called it Lesson 1 Thursday, something like matching. So I will try my best to keep a kind of a format so that it's always easy to find what you need on GitHub. And also, just as a reminder, if you're interested, I'm also recording my lessons. And again, you can go and search me on YouTube by my name. And again, I've kept the similar kind of naming convention where you will see your course code or RAD. You will see fall 2017. You will see your day, Thursday, and then it will keep saying lesson 1, lesson 2, and so on, right? That's how it will go. Okay, so this is where we had left off. Remember, we are extending the form class, which is coming from the namespace. And those namespaces are also, you don't have to memorize them, but all those namespaces are mentioned here. So system.windows.forms is the namespace, which has the class called form, and your form is extending from that class. That is extends in C#. You've seen the word extends in Java. That's how you extend from a class in C#. You say colon. Also, you will notice that the class has partial in front of it. So otherwise it's kind of normal, public class and the name of the class. but it says partial because your code, your project is divided into two parts. One, what you're coding, the event handlers, and two, the designer.cs file is also code. So these two together make up your project. So therefore it says partial in front of it, and it will also say partial public class in your designer.cs. So I will keep the designer class open because I would like to draw your attention to this over and over again, but so that when the time comes to kind of say it's not Greek to you, say, oh, this is the file where my code is going, anything that I'm building is going here. So if I need to change anything, then this is the file I should need change to, right? So this is where we left off last week. So we had created, so a few things that you have to keep in mind. Please see that you give a useful, or not more than useful, a meaningful name to your project. So when you submit something to me, I don't want to see Windows Forms application 1, 2, and 3, and so on. I want to see a proper name. For example, I've called mine lesson 1, welcome or something, lesson 1 Thursday. So that's meaningful enough for me, because to me, it means that this is my lesson 1 for the Thursday section. So see that you do that, and then always give your class meaningful names. So don't leave it at form1.cs. So we changed it to form welcome because I was trying to write a welcome message. That's what my first program is about. I'm going to write a welcome message for you in English and in Spanish, or any other language, whatever of your choice. I can't even remember my Spanish now. I'm sure Bradley will help me. He knows a few languages, right? So always see that you rename your project or your solution or your project when you start. You rename your class. I don't want to see any class names that don't make sense. And then every control that you put on your form has to be renamed to mean something. So again, no label 1, label 2, text box 1, text box 2, makes no sense at all. So the convention I'm following and will follow in my assignments and will expect them from you also is that I will be using a 3-letter abbreviation in front of my control name to say what it is. So FRM for form, LBL for labels, TXT for text boxes, BTN for buttons, and so on, right? So that's the convention I will be using. As I said, the convention, there are 3 conventions. And again, there is a 4th one which says, why do we even follow these conventions? Why do we have to even mention whether this is a form or whether this is a text box? Why? Because if I change my label to a text box, I shouldn't go searching everywhere. Oh, where did I call it label message? And now I want to call it text box message. And I agree, right? But I'm just following the convention. So some programmers are saying, why do we even need to put this control type in front or at back or whatever in a name at all? Why should we even do it? And that's quite correct, right? In a sense, if I change my label now to a text box, I'll have to go and change its name. If I have to follow the convention, I'll have to go from LBL message, I'll have to go TXT message. And that's waste of time, right? We should not be linking it. But as I said, whatever it is. So I'm going to stick with this 3-lettered abbreviation at the front of my control, but I won't use it with my variables. I won't say variable name integer, variable name decimal. That's another convention. They place the type of the variable with the name. That's too much, I think, right? So I'll follow this just because we are kind of, it's control, so it's okay. But when I start using variables and constants in my code, I won't stick to this convention of putting the type with it. That becomes too much of an expectation, right? So programmers are kind of moving away from putting the name of the control in the name. We'll stick to it since there is nothing here right now on the web. It's all divided, okay? But with variables and constants, we'll follow the C# convention. We'll stick to that for sure. So if you want to follow my convention, please see that you follow it, because it will help you to kind of do my assignments my way, because I'll always say, name your form this. That's all I'll say. These are my controls, these are its properties, and these are its event handlers. So I'm expecting that if I've written something, you will just kind of name it the same. So do it that way. The rest is, of course, up to you, however you want to do it. So we had talked about properties of a control. We had talked about events that are associated with the control, right? So most of them, the buttons, of course, the labels are just labels. They are just to show information. So usually they are not very useful. They don't take input. They're usually only to show either output, like I will do in this label, or they're just to show something that you would like to show. So every time you create a form, I need a heading on your form. Again, an appropriate heading, and then your name on the right or the left corner, wherever you want to adjust it. But I want to see your name. All these instructions are up on Blackboard, right? They have to be followed in every assignment or exam that you do, unless otherwise specified. You just follow them. And if you do them in class, you don't even have to go and double check. I'm just following them myself. So get in the habit and you'll be okay, right? And again, you'll say, why does she create rules for us every time? Keep in mind, wherever you go, even if you go in an organization and you work somewhere, every organization have their standards and rules, and you'll have to follow them. They may have a color scheme, they may have a font style, they may have something that has to be done. So you just have to follow them. If you are an independent programmer, then it's up to you, right? So while in class, so that there is consistency in my marking, in my speaking, in what I do, and I expect you to do, I'll stick to my rules and conventions. And I am expecting that you can also do it for me. Sean?
Do you have like a specific spot that your rules and conventions are, or is it just within PowerPoints?
They're all on Blackboard, not in PowerPoints, where it says common instructions for assignments. In the assignments section, they're all listed there, right? So anytime you forget, you can just do a double check. Yes, they're all listed there under the assignment section on Blackboard. The PowerPoint slides, I haven't even touched them. They're just coming from the publisher. They're related to the book, and I'm just giving them to you so that you can read them if you like. And when I want to refer to something theoretically, then I'll go and look at them because I can memorize stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to memorize how the variable conventions and so on. You can always look it up. What are the types that are available in C#? Everything, we'll just look it up, okay? But yes, these are mentioned, so they're all there. And I'll follow them. I'll definitely follow them when I do my classwork, okay? So that way, at least you can say, why are we expected to do that? So every control that you put, if you notice, if I'll again refresh your memories, you will see there is a properties window here. If you can't see the properties window, you can always go to view and you can get your properties window up. It should say somewhere, there it is, properties window. So if you don't see a particular window, please go to view and make it visible, right? If you don't have an output window, go here and make it visible. So this is one place where you will see the common windows that you may not have, right? You can do it. Or sometimes it's also in the windows. Reset window, no, I think it's only in view, right? And you can always go to other windows if you can't see it, and the other windows will come here. So you can always make whatever you like. You can set up your environment as to how you like it, okay? I mean, it doesn't matter to me at all. So whatever is helpful to you, you can set up your environment as you like. I like to see my solution explorer, my team explorer, my properties, and my toolbox always. So that's how I have them, and I always pin them when I need them. So now I'm not expecting you to give your assignment, at least for today, on GitHub for me. My expectations will always be on Blackboard so that I can keep a record. We have to keep a record for an year before we can throw them out. You know what I mean? So since Blackboard is something that I can keep track on, I will always expect you to submit everything on Blackboard. And when I say everything, all I need from you is you go to your folder, right click, zip, submit. Give it a name that I have asked and submit. That's all I'm expecting from you so that I can open it up as a project. All I do is unzip it, double click on the Solution Explorer file and hit files. Right? So don't give me parts and pieces. I won't try to put it together. And you'll say, where do I find it? When you created this project, wherever you created it, so you should know where you created it. And if not, look up the default. So when I create it, so I'll show you what I'm expecting from you when you submit something. So it's Thursday. So notice how I think I had some problems with 2017 last week. Thanks, Thomas. I did go and change the properties. I'll have to do it every time. So if you're getting problems, you can't run your code. And if you look up on the web, they give you a couple of solutions. So every time I have to do it, I don't know why, but so I think that's why I have two of them. I'm assuming this is my right one, the lesson one. So all I want from you is you'll have a folder like this. All I want you from me is right click, zip, and give it to me on Blackboard. Right? Don't go inside and say, oh, what does she want from me? Don't bother. Right? Yeah, if you're putting your stuff on Git, I'm not interested in these folders, but you know what? It's not a big deal. Once I have it, I just want to look at it. So every time when you submit an assignment, you pick up your folder, right click, zip, name it according to as I have told you. It will say, please rename it like this and put it on Blackboard. That's all I'm expecting from you. But as you know, I've mentioned this and I'll try to keep to this because it's a lot of time unzipping and doing, and I don't want to waste all that time. All in-class assignments will be marked in class, right? Whenever you finish, whenever I have time, maybe next week when you're doing another assignment, I'll manage that. I'll manage how it goes. So your time won't be wasted at all. While you're working on something, I'll mark the previous one. And if time does not permit, then I'll mark it in my own good time. But that's the aim. The aim is you do an in-class assignment, you show it to me, I give you my feedback immediately, you have your marks and it's done. That's how it will work. At least for the first half, it will work this way because assignments will be small. When they become big, we'll talk about it. Okay. Okay. So I had put 2 buttons, English and Spanish. And I also want now you to put 3 more buttons on your form. And on your form, again, get 1, 2, and 3 buttons. Please see that you kind of, I mean, it depends on how you want to make your form. If you want to kind of put them a little besides each other, you can do that. But doing all this stuff is very easy. Anytime you want to center something, you have a center horizontally button here. You want to center something, you have a center horizontally button here, right? If you want to do something with both the controls together, you kind of select them together, and then again, if you want to say center horizontally, there it is. So don't make untidy user interfaces, please. Why? Because all you need is a click, right? All you have to do is select it and make it neat. So I can find it. Like you can always see something is not centered properly. So don't try and waste your time doing it. Oh, is it in center or not? All you have to do is pick up the control and use what is available here. You can center horizontally. You can put them. I'll show you another thing that you can do. So again, I'll kind of go here. I'll take my button 2. So I'm creating another 3 buttons here. And look at my blue lines. I'm lining my button 1 on the left-hand side with this border, and I'm lining my button 3 on this with the border here, just for neatness, nothing else. Also, since I have already defined this as 88 and 35, the size, I'll take these 3 buttons and I'll change it to 88, 35, I think I said. Anything that you want to do together, select those buttons together, or select those controls together. So I found out what the size of this button was. Remember the property size, 88, 35, it says it's 88 in width and 35 in height. I said, oh, that's what I want these buttons also to look like. So I kind of picked them up and went to its size property and changed it to 88 and 35. So anytime things are done in a group, all properties that you can work with in a group come here. Of course, you don't see the name. You can change the name of 3 buttons together. So you don't see the name property. So when you work with groups, you will see there are certain properties that can be changed and some cannot be changed. Okay, so now let's start working here. So click anywhere outside and you're okay. So on the first button, I'll do the text property first so that it is easy. I would like you to put clear on it. Make C your hotkey or your keyboard access key, as it is called. They're called keyboard access keys because you can make the same button work with Alt C. So that's what I've put on my first one, right? My button 2, and you'll see they're not kind of equally spaced. You can even do that. See, pick them up. Go to the property called make horizontal spacing equal. And they've been spaced equally. So placing something in the center, making spacing between some controls, it's all there. All you have to do is go and look for it. So I clicked the 3, I chose the 3 buttons, and I went here and I said make horizontal spacing equal. Horizontal is this way and vertical is this way, right? For your information, you can always check, and if not, Control Z and do the other thing. But horizontal means this way and vertical means this way. So there were 3 buttons and they didn't have the same space in between them. Select them, make horizontal spacing equal, they look neat now. Right? So neatness is important in your UI. So your UI will have marks, user interface will have marks. Does it? I mean, that's one thing. And the other thing that will be marked is your functionality of your controls. So how does the user interface look? Does the heading look like a heading? Do you have a heading? Do you have a name? Do you have keyboard access keys? And so on. Do you have an accept cancel button? Do you have a tab order? All those things I'll explain to you. Okay. And if you don't have these buttons, for students who did not come last week, if you don't have these buttons, you can go here, and any button that you don't have, you can select from here. Right? So any button that you need, you can select from here. Let's see what this tab order does. Oh, that's neat. Get this tab order also. Get a tab order. I didn't know that's a new one, but there's a tab order one here. So get a button which is called tab order. Add it to your toolbar. I'll show you what it does. Let me show it to you right away what it does. There are 2 options. You can also get it from view tab order. Let me explain what this tab order is. What is this tab order? This tab order says when you will use your tab key when the form is executed, when the form comes up, as you use your tab key, this is how it will go. It will go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 and to 7. That's its tab index property for your information. And this is a defined tab order. How did it come? How I took my controls and brought it onto the form, that's the number it took. So remember, I created this label first. Then I created my name label. Then I created the message label. So that's the default that it has done. It may always not be so neat. You may have to fix it for yourself. Now, another thing that you must remember or understand is labels. There is no sense of tab index values for labels. Why? Because you never tab on labels. You either tab on buttons or you tab on input boxes. So labels are useless. They don't have a tab stop property. But all other controls will have also a tab stop property, which you can set to true or false. If you don't want a particular tab stop property to be true, set it to false and the tab will not go there. So with every control, there are two properties you have to keep in mind. Tab stop, yes or no, do I want to stop on it? Tab index, in which order do I want to stop on it, right? So I'll show you those properties, but here I can change it like this if you wanted to change it. So the first button you want to highlight when the form opens is English. Click on it, it will become 0. Then you want to go to Spanish. Then you want to go to clear, this and this. And then you can give anything else to 5, 6, and 7 because labels are useless.
How do you pull up
the tabs?
The orders in the first
okay, there are two ways you can pull them up. You can go to view and you can click on tab order. After you select the form is active, go to view and go to tab order and they'll come up. That's one way of doing it. It's a toggle one, right? And the second that I just told you, there is a tab order button here in your toolbar. If you don't have it, get it. It's right here, tab order. So that's much easier, right? So get a tab order button in your toolbar. It's handy because you always will have to set the tab order of your controls, always. It will always carry marks, right? Let me show you what will happen. Okay, let's do this. Let's finish this. Clear. At the second button, I want you to call print form. So you can make anything as your shorthand key as long as you haven't used it before. So I'm making it P. I'm writing the names first because then it is easy to I'm writing the text first, then you know what they are for. And this is my exit button. I'll go E and I'll make X the shorthand key to keep with usual Windows notation. Exit usually has, have you noticed? X is, and again, this is a bug with Windows with Visual Studio. If you want to get these shorthand keys active or even visible, you'll have to press the Alt key to make them visible. So everything in Windows, notice how they have shorthand keys. That's what I'm trying to create. I'm creating shorthand keys. I'm making it just look like any Windows window, right? And of course, there are no duplicates. You can't. How can you say, oh, this will also work the same way and this will also work the same way? Logically, you can't do that. So I've given them this. Now start changing their name. Remember, I said every control must have a name. So I'm going to go BTN for button. That's the convention I'm following, and I'll call it exit because it's the exit button. That way I can remember, right? Go to your second button. You can again call it whatever you like, but please give it a meaningful name. I'm calling it button print. Please go to the third one and please call it button clear. These are names. So please understand, names are different from text. Names are what you're calling that control, like a variable, like a constant, right? And two, what is on it is the text. The text appears on it. So they're two different things. So both have to be changed to make sense. You don't want to see button 1, button 2, button 3 on the text. You don't want to call your buttons button 1, button 2, button 3, because then they're like calling your variables X, Y, Z that have no meaning. At this point of time, I'm sure in semester 3, you know that you should give meaningful names to your variables, constants, programs, and everything, right? Otherwise, they don't make sense. Okay, now all 3 buttons everything is ready. Now there's another thing I want to show you, but before I do that, I'm going to run this. Remember, we had changed the properties. I think we had changed the start position and everything. We'll know in a minute. There it is. So it has appeared in the center of the screen because I had changed the start position property of my form to go center screen. The maximize button is disabled because I had made maximize box to be false. The form border, there are no handles to change the size of my form because I had made my border of a fixed size, right? Now, to see the buttons, and notice how English is highlighted. Why? Because its tab index is 0. That's the first button that is highlighted. Please press Alt to see your shorthand keys. That's how you will have to do it. Now, if you use your tab key, it will go from English to Spanish, to clear, to print, form, to exit. Back to English, back to Spanish, clear, print, form, exit. That's the tab order I have set. It will be usually top to bottom, left to right. You'll have to decide depending upon your form where you want to take the user when the user presses the tab key. So the UI is ready. The UI is ready. It looks neat enough. It's of an appropriate size. It has a heading. It has my name. All buttons have shorthand keys. Everything looks okay to me. A few more things that you can do with it. The X will work, and so will the minimize work by default. It has a proper text. It says welcome here. It doesn't say form 1 here, right? So these are small things that you have to keep in mind. Okay, now something else that I would like you to show. If you now, these indices, the tab indices I've just changed, they're right here. If you don't want to change them that way, though I don't know why, but here it is. You can always go here and change the tab index if you want. But that was much easier when you see everything together and you change them just by the click of a mouse. But that's another option. So you can go and change your tab indices here. So remember, I gave it a 0, it says 0. And there is a tab stop property which says true. If I make it false and you use the tab key, it won't even go to that button. So sometimes if you need to make for a text box, you want to set the tab property as false because it's an output box, you will make it here. On the other hand, labels do not have a tab stop property at all because tabs never stop on labels because labels are usually for headings or output. So why would you? Where do tabs usually stop? Where the user has to give some input. That is where you make your tabs go. So output boxes will always have tabs as 0. Oh, sorry, tab stop property as false. Since I've used labels, I don't even have to bother. There is no tab stop property. But I still had to give it a number because I don't want 2 zeros or 2 1s in my form. So no two controls can have the same tab index property. Okay, so this is another way you could do it if you don't like the other way. Now, there are 2 more properties I would like to draw your attention to. One property is called accept button, and there is another property called cancel button. Now, what it means is simply this. The accept button property, click on it, please. If you click on it, it says the accept button of the form. If this is set, the button is clicked. This button is automatically clicked wherever the user presses enter. So you're kind of making a connection. So if you press enter, the enter key on your keyboard, and you want this to trigger an event on your button clear, for example, you will link both of them together. This is called the accept button. So accept button is the button which is set. You have to set it. If you don't set it, it won't work. But what is it? It is the button that will be clicked when you press the enter key. Yes? Would that overwrite the focus? So if you were focused on Spanish, but you had the accept button? No. All it is saying is enter is related to this button. Okay. So what I'm going to do is usually you can choose whatever you like, but usually button clear is usually set to work as enter. Right? You could have a calculate button. That's what you would like to be your enter button. So anytime user presses enter, it is the same as pressing the clear button. Okay. So the event handler which is connected with clear will work. The second button, so that's another property that I would always like you to set. So it's called accept button. It's a property, right? It's a property of your form.
You just have to set what we want it to be entered. It doesn't have to be clear every time, right?
Usually it will either be clear or calculate. You will kind of think of it, what we want to do when the user presses enter. So usually enter says I'm done sometimes. So that would be there's a button called calculate, which you want to say, okay, I've given my input, now do it. Here, because I have nothing like that, to me, clear seems the most logical one because English and Spanish are doing the same job. So I can say, oh, you are accept and you are not accept. So for me, clear was okay. Right? So I'll usually say set accept button to clear, set accept button to calculate. So I'll kind of mention it. Okay, I will. If not, then it's up to you.
Okay.
Right? The other button that I would like you to kind of know of and be aware of is called the cancel button. And the cancel button is similar to accept, has a different property, of course. There's a different use, I should say. anytime you press the escape key, this button will activate. So usually again, I'm just saying usually because that's the norm, but it's not a hard and fast rule. So if I don't mention anything, it's up to you, whatever you want, but you'll start thinking logically yourself. I will associate my escape button with exit button, because usually when I say escape, I'm saying, okay, finished, project is done. But again, it could be anything, right? So how will you do that? Again, come to your cancel button and choose button exit to be the corresponding button for escape. So now in a way, clear, return, and Alt C will all do the same job, right? Exit, escape, and Control Alt X will do the same job. That's what I've done.
Can you like link it to like the actual X on top?
No. It just is linking to the button, right? It's always, therefore it's called accept button, cancel button. It always links to buttons, not to anything else also, not to any controls.
Right.
It will usually be the click of a button, right? So that's another property that's very handy, and you'll always almost set it. You will be expected to. So even if I forget, I think it's in my common instructions. If not, I'll see that I put it there. But in the beginning, I'll try to give all my instructions to you. And once you get into the habit, you don't even have to kind of double think. Just do it. Because these are user-friendly user interfaces. Keep in mind, when you create user interfaces, your aim should be to make them user-friendly. Because that's what we want. You're users yourself. You like some interfaces, you don't like other interfaces. Right? And there is a reason for that. And a few years back, we had a whole course on user interfaces because it's so important, because you see it everywhere. You see it in desktop applications, you see it on web all the time. Like you're creating web pages all the time. And if you read about it, there is a whole thing about colors being used, fonts being used, where things should be placed and accept, and all these things are out there, right? I'm just showing it to you from my point of view, like how I need it. But it's all out there, so you can always go and read. Okay, now, so that's my interface. It's kind of ready. Now my next job is to make these buttons operative, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create event handlers for these buttons. Now, just if you remember from last week, for any of these controls, if you go to the event icon here, you will notice there is a long list of, you may not see anything here. Don't worry about it. I'll show you this one where there is nothing, right? So if you go to the events, you will notice there is a long list of events with every control. Now, we may not even use a couple. Sometimes only one, like the click button. Sometimes maybe more than one. Sometimes maybe nothing. It's just there. But the click is the most commonly used event with a button. So what happens is when you double click, so double click on your Spanish button, on your English button or Spanish, doesn't matter. Double click on it. You will notice. So now here we'll start looking at this file, right? So this was the form welcome.cs that was created for you. It had a constructor. The constructor was calling initialize component. Initialize component was that method where the whole GUI was created, right? And the first, when you go start, program.cs is called. Program.cs calls the constructor of your .cs file. The constructor calls initialize component, and the form becomes visible, right? Okay, so that's behind the scenes. Now, before you do anything at all, I would like you to put your name or whatever. So this is new in 2017, Visual Studio 2017. This is one of the features. So as I see the 3 new features of 2017, I'll tell them to you, though it may be your first time you're using Visual Studio and you don't have to even compare it with an older version. But Visual 2017, I've given you the PDF file just so that you know the changes. This is new. They've put these dots to kind of say this is the begin and this is the end. Handy. It's easy. Usually before that, when it was not there, this is what you used to do. You kind of highlight it and it highlights its corresponding curly bracket. So they've changed this in 2017. They have created this dotted line to say these are related, right? And it kind of formats it itself. So it will indent code and do everything. Now, what has happened? Please notice what has happened. When you double clicked on your English button, automatically an event handler, it's just a method. An event handler was created for you, right? So it's called an event handler because this is going to handle, or this method will contain the code that will be executed when you click on the button. Therefore, it is called event handler. So what has it done? It has created a template for you. So it has created a method for you. You could have called this method whatever you like. So since we are new, we'll kind of use what is available, and then in the long run, you should know, has it to be called this? No, you could have called it whatever you like. But how did it name it? It took the name of your button, which was button English, and underscore, and it adds the name of the event with it, which is the click. So it's not a bad name, right? It's not a bad name at all. It makes complete sense. It is a private method, can only be used within the class. It cannot be called outside the class. It returns nothing. The return type is void. Please recollect your Java methods. It's the same concept, right? So a method has a return type. Constructors don't have a return type. Notice there is no return type in a constructor, right? So a method has a name. Now, since we have gone BTN, and that's how we start. So in a sense, this is camel case because the BTN is small, right? If you start naming your own methods, we'll just follow the convention that is in C#, which is actually Pascal naming convention. But because I have placed my BTN in front of it, it just takes the name. So it becomes camel case. But otherwise, notice it is English underscore click. We didn't have the word button. So they are Pascal case. Also notice that it has two parameters that have been put for you. By the name of them, it's not a bad thing. You can guess what it is. The first parameter is an object. Remember, again, object is just any object. And sender says which control has invoked this procedure, which control has invoked this event handler. So in our case, our sender will be English button. That's what our sender will be. So sender one, our sender will be replaced by the name of the button English will be converted into an object because that's a button object. This requires it to be an object. It will, and remember, every object is also of type object. Like in Java, you also have a class called object here, which is the father of all or the mother of all classes in C#, including what you create. So object says any object can come to me. The second one, if you bring your mouse, it will help you. But the second one is called event arguments, and it represents, so it's coming from the class system dot event arguments, and it represents the base class for extra event data. Anything extra event data that is required when you click a button, that's also passed. So again, it doesn't bother us. It's something because it's an event handler. The arguments, the return type is kind of already taken care of. We can change them. You can change the name of the method, but you can't change the return type and the parameters because it is expecting you to give these parameters and the return type is void. And so we kind of don't even bother. Right? Now, what do you want to do here is what you will code. But before we code that, please go, and I would like you to put comments at the head. The minimum comments I'm requiring from you are, so there are again two ways you can comment in C#. One, you can use your line comments, 2 slashes like in Java, and you can also use star and a slash for block comments, right? I would like to see your name, and this goes without saying. You'll always be needed to comment. These are the minimum I want. If I want more commenting, I'll let you know in my code. And you cannot escape commenting. I'm not sure if you've learned this lesson in your co-op when you were doing your co-op last semester. There is no code without commenting. When you joined, you saw somebody's code, and to understand it, there were comments. When you left comments for programmers who will come and take your place. So commenting is a must, whether you like it or not. I'm not forcing you, but there will always be marks. Do it, take it, don't do it. That's fine by me, right? Okay, so I want to see your name, the date. So this is September 14. You can just say the month. It's not it's a big deal. And the purpose, which is important. The purpose of your script, not assignment 1, not assignment 2. That's not the purpose. The purpose of your script. So the purpose of my script, this application is, this application displays the message, hello world, in English and Spanish. Depending upon what? Depending upon user's choice. Plus, output can be cleared. Form can be printed. and the form can be printed. You also have, as you know, you also have a exit button, which will usually be like it's kind of done and said, but okay, so it's, oh, this is a word wrap. That's why it's not giving me the star. So this is my word wrap. So you don't have to, I mean, therefore I only see a star. Those stars are not necessary at all. This is what is necessary. Start and begin. So I've kind of said what my application does. So I'm expecting from you a grammatically correct and clear purpose. It will always have a mark, at least 1 mark. The purpose will always have at least 1 mark, sometimes 2. So to begin with, I'll say I need your name, a mark. I need the date, a mark. I need the purpose, 2 marks. How long does it take? Not even a minute. So don't lose these marks. The rest is, of course, up to you. So I'll always do it. I expect you to do it. Right? So this is a purpose I want. What does your application do? That's all I'm interested in. Okay, so as it becomes more complex, you will see that the purpose will become more complex. So grammatically correct, no spelling errors, and clear and meaningful. Right? And if you have problems, try it in Word first, see your spelling mistakes, see any grammatical errors, and then paste it here. Okay? So it should be correct. Okay, so I always want this at the head. Now let's start here. Now, any comments that you would like to put for me, and usually you will always, every method will always have a line comment saying what does it do. So what does this method do? This method prints a message in English. Wherever, doesn't matter, wherever. It's up to you. If you would like to put these comments outside, sure, you can take this and just put it outside. Notice another thing, it says 1 reference, Anju Chawla 38 minutes ago and so on. This is telling you how many references are being made to this method and who had made it and so on. It comes handy when you debug.
Should we do it in like the proper Visual Studio documentation for 3? Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I
before the method and do 3.
So I do a double here. This is something that Rich is using for commenting.
No, but this is like
the Visual Studio.
It's like Java docs. Like
oh, okay. So go ahead. So how do you do that in Visual?
3.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Like this. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. That's a good point because we stress so much on Java commenting, right? So we must, as programmers, stick to that. Sure.
Yeah,
that would be a good idea. Yeah. You're right. We should follow something that, as programmers, you should know. Okay, so this is the way of your Java doc commenting, right? So you go 3 slashes. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. And what it says is summary. Summary is where it says what does the method do, right? Then you have your param. The name of your param is name is equal to sender. So it kind of completes it for you. So it's not a big deal, right? So yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Maybe, yeah. So you can use this. You can use your double ones for your normal otherwise commenting. Okay, I'll have to look up. Do they also say what does the param do in Visual Basic? Does it say I'll look it up. I'm not as good in my, I should not say. Just for description, does it say what does it do? This param is set, or is the sender or something? Does it, like in Java doc we do, right?
Yeah, it's just whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So we can just say whatever it is. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically the sender of the event, right? Okay, so something like that. Okay.
Or if you know that it's a button or something.
Yep. Param sender. The English button or something, we can go as I'll have to read this then. I will. I mean, how do they want it? Is there, like, there are standards. And what is this? The event arguments. Bless you. Yeah. Just because I don't use C# as much as I use Java. Just that. Yeah, but those are your Java doc comments. But I'll go and try to read and see if there are certain conventions or certain things here. And then I'll try to follow that in my class too. Right? Because it's a good idea. Definitely, it's a good idea. Okay, so we can put in the summary is what your method does, your description. Then, if you notice, it says @param. Param stands for parameters, like in Java. It says name is equal to sender. It is telling you I'm talking about sender, and then you say the English button will be your sender in this case. And then E says event arguments, and I'm just saying sometimes you don't even have to put this because it's so like easy, like you can read it. But if you're going to do it, we better do it. Now, if you had a return type, then you would have another triple return or something, and then you would say returns this. My return type is void, so it's not coming up with anything. Right? So exactly like Java documentation, and very useful. I'll just have to go and revise or see, are there any kind of certain rules that they want us to follow. In Java docs, we know it because we read Java docs all the time. Okay, now what do you want to do here? Logically, what do you want to do? So when the user presses the English button, what do you want to do?
Change the label to display the...
Exactly. So change the text property of the label to show hello world, right? Okay, so if you start typing, and remember it was called LBL. So this is what I was saying when I was saying this is another use, that why if you write your labels together and you use IntelliSense, that's IntelliSense. Since it starts with LBL, all LBLs will come together. So then you don't have to remember, oh, what did I call my label? If you look at it, one is called heading, the other is called message, the third one is called name, of which this one is the most obvious one that makes sense to you, right? That's another use when you use that 3-letter abbreviation in the beginning. So if you go LBL, all labels will come together. So that way it's easy to kind of guess which one you want to work with. Okay, so in its text property, right? So notice name of the object dot name of the method or name of the property, same thing, right? That's same as Java. Name of the object dot name of the method when you're calling a method dot name of the property when you're working with the property of the method. So I'm going to work with the text property of my label. And again, you will see if I don't remember, see as soon as you started typing, you saw IntelliSense come up. You have a text align property, you text align, and anything that these are the properties, anything where you see this anchor, and these are events with the lightning sign, right? So those are the events and those are the properties. Same symbol that was used in your GUI. So if you know the name, good. If you don't know the name, you can see, so you can do whatever you did in your design, you can do it here. I could have changed the tab index here, though this is not the right place to change it, but I could set it here also. So that's all I'm doing. Okay, so you come to the property you want. I think you can press enter or tab, both work, right? Then you go equal, and then you say what do you want to do. So I want to print hello world or welcome to C# or whatever. That's the message I want to print. So semicolon is the terminator, your statement terminator. Your statement go to any number of lines. You have to terminate it by a semicolon. You can put any number of statements in a line because you have a terminator. I would like you to put your statements in different lines for readability, right? Don't put more than one statement on the same. That's all you need to do, right? That's all you need to do. Now, I would like to draw your attention, come back to your design. Come back to your design and would like to draw your attention that see what has happened in the click. Now when you double clicked on your English button, an event handler was created for you, right? This event handler that you created has been now linked with or wired with your click event on your button. This wiring has taken place automatically. Again, there is no magic. Code has been written for it. I'll show you the code in a minute, right? So this wiring has taken place. Now, if you wanted to write your own procedure, your own method or whatever, you can always write it in code. You can come here and you can type that name or you can select it from here. There is nothing else right now. See, there is only one event, but I could, if I wanted, though I don't want to do it, I could go to Spanish and in properties, I could say, oh, the click associated with the button English click, which I don't want to do. I don't want to print the same thing in Spanish. Like I don't want to say hello world. I want to say hello mundo or whatever it is called. Pardon my Spanish, right? But that's what I want to do. But you can always link, you can always wire the event handler with your event right here in design window also. It's your job, okay? But by double clicking, it has been done automatically for you. And this code is also available in your designer.cs, and let me bring it to your attention. And so which was this? This was the message one, right? So come to your message and there it is. Please pay attention to this statement that has been done for you. So what has it done? Please look at the syntax. It is saying on the left-hand side, this means the current object. Dot button English is the name of the control. Dot click is the name of the event, right? Plus equal to is basically saying wire it, and what has it's using a delegate actually. A delegate, these are called delegates. Delegates have already been written for you, and what it is saying is that the event handler that is going to handle the event for the click event of button English is called button English underscore click.
I was just gonna say, are events just like delegates?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Events are just like delegates. And what is a delegate?
It's just like a collection of methods.
It's a method. Yeah. A delegate is a method, right? So delegates, this term could be new for you, but I'm sure you will hear it in Java, advanced Java also now. So delegate is just a method that has been predefined. It's already there, and you're trying to call that method, and that method is expecting the name. It has certain parameters that you have to pass. Exactly that. So this system.event handler is basically a delegate. It's a method written for you, and that method is expecting the name of the method which you will be connecting with the event. Right? Yes,
so you can link up multiple actions.
Yes, yes, you can. Yes, you can link up multiple.
There's another quick question.
Yeah.
Like there's, when you do it the one way, it's nose event arms, but if you double click it, it creates event arms.
Come again. Come again.
If you go onto your, and you double click a button,
Double click a button.
and it creates event arms. Then one creates mouse event arms.
That will depend upon the event you're trying to write for. Every event will have different arguments.
Okay, so
when you double click, by default, it will write the click event.
Okay.
That is the default. If you want to write something else, this is another way you could do it. If you want to write something else, you go to design, right? Open up the event of that particular. So if you wanted to say something in front of control added, right? You double click here. So when you double click here, it will create a template for you, and in that template, it will have its own parameters, right? So you can create any. So the double clicking on the control will go to its default event handler, which is click in button. But definitely you can create any of them if you want. So if by mistake you create something, then you have to kind of take care that you remove that mistake. So let me show it to you. You don't do it, but let me show it to you. So if I say leave, I'm kind of coming here, I'm double clicking on it. So what did it do? It created a button Spanish leave event handler for me. And again, it has the same argument. So I say, oh, that was by mistake. So that was by mistake. You just can't remove this and you'll say, oh, sorry about that mistake. You'll have to be careful. You'll have to go back to your design. You will have to, and you will see you have a problem. Why? Because it said, oh, you double clicked on it. I wired it for you. Now what did you do? You just removed it without bothering. So for this is where your designer window will come handy, right? So what you will do is, so notice how it has created this in the designer.cs file. It has linked it, right? It has done this wiring for you. It is called event wiring. So you said, oh, it was a mistake. You removed it from your code, but you have to remove this wiring. There is where, this is one place where you may have to come and look at your designer.cs file. So if you make mistakes, then just remove it, delete it. And now you're okay. And you will be fine now. And now it will run again.
The method, will it automatically rename it in properties?
I haven't checked that. I can. Let me see. I've never done it because I've never bothered with these click methods. So Wesley is asking, his question is, I'm not sure, but I don't know like how it works. So Wesley is asking, suppose you change this to whatever, just for the heck of it. Let me just change it to this, right? He says, will this change automatically show everywhere? Let's see. So I've done this, right? If I come here, no. Right? Yes.
So you should be able to, if you do want to change it in one spot and have it change everywhere else, you should be able to right click and do the
refactor. Exactly. That would be another way of doing it. Refactoring. Yes. Yes. So to come to what, sorry, your name.
Connor.
Okay. Connor is saying is this. He said you could do this, and he's absolutely right. So he said okay, now because I did this, okay, let me go back where I was. So I'll kind of bring it back to BTN. But the other way, if you want to be safe without making any problems or errors, you can always go here. You can do right click. You can go rename. It is saying I don't see a refactor, so maybe it will automatically do it. You can go rename here. Let's see what it says. Remain, modify any, include comments, include strings, and so on. And it should work automatically. Usually it will say, if you don't see rename, you will see something called refactor. And inside refactor, you will see rename. Okay. And it will do it everywhere. Or the other way is, if you say, oh, that's what I want to do, I don't want to use your default names, you can give a name here itself, and then it will automatically be. So there are ways of working around. But what do you have to understand? You have to understand that these are all connected to each other. So if you give a name here, that name is the name of your method in your CS code, and that is the name of the method or the event handler in your designer.cs. So all names should match. They should all match. Okay. And if they don't match, then you will see that problem that when you go back to your design, it will say you have errors and so on. And that's the only time I think you'll have to go to the designer.cs code to see what's going on. This is something that you will maybe do in your first couple of assignments, because you will make mistakes. You will double click on wrong events or something. But if you don't even bother, all you have to do is double click on this one. Double click on your button, and it will go to its click, which is what we want to do right now. Okay, so let's complete this. We'll do the same thing here. And then again, this one is printing the message in English or in Spanish. And again, the sender and so on, we can do the same thing, the Spanish button. Yeah, I didn't think of it. It never occurs to me in C#. In Java, I'm so strict with it, and here I don't even bother. Okay. So let's do this. Let's do this. And then here, now help me. I'm not sure. Label message dot text. Okay, any Spanish guy around? Bradley. Hello world in Spanish. I thought you knew some languages. HOLA. Thank you. I thought it was, but I wasn't so sure. My spelling of hola was definitely wrong.
Well, I did not need to say hello world in Spanish.
Okay. Okay, so there it is.
Many times.
Thanks, Kendra. Right? So that's all you have to do. You have to change its text property. Okay? So basically, what are the events of a control? What are the properties of a control? What do I need to do? That's all you have to learn. Kind of, right? Okay, let's come back. And now, since you know, please quickly, let's do this. What do you want to do in clear? You want to clear that message, right? So clear the message. I'll kind of leave the sender and so on. Okay, better do it. You're most welcome to go and see what are the extra event arguments it needs. With GUI, I kind of don't. Okay, so what do you want to do? Now, this is a label. So with the label, we again have to do the same thing. We'll go label message. We'll go the text property, and we will assign it. There are two ways. You can go this way, or this is one way. You're giving it an empty string. Or the other way is there is the string class, which has an empty method. Notice what it says. It's a field, empty, represents the empty string. And there, you can do it this way. Whatever you like, no problem. I like the string.empty. It makes more sense to me. Like, whatever works for you. Are you so afraid of what I prefer? Because I'll talk of marks? No, it's just an empty string, right? The string.empty is, I like it because it makes more sense to me. If you are okay with double quotes, sure, go ahead and do it.
There isn't some kind of like clear thing. No, you just.
No, now why? Because it's a label. With a text box, there will be a clear property, a clear method. Sorry, not a property, a method, and we can use that. But because this is a label, label does not have a clear method. That would be the obvious one we use, if there was one. And that's why for outputs, we'll stop using labels for output and start using text boxes and make them read-only text boxes. That's one use of using text box. Remember I said with labels, you have to give it a border. You have to make its auto size property as false. There is more work. With text boxes, border is already there. You have to just change its read-only to true. So we will, but for now, because that's the use of labels, we'll stick to that. So there is no clear method for labels. There is not, right? Okay, so that's what you want to do in here, right? So whatever you like, I don't know. It's up to you. Okay, so now I'll tell you print form in a minute. Please go to the exit. And basically it's closing the application, right? Okay, now C#. There are a few ways. Let me see. I'll show you something else afterward also. Let's see if there is a me.close here. No, there isn't. Okay, so we'll have to go with application.exit. That means. There it is. So bring your mouse over it. It also helps you. It says informs all message pumps that they must terminate and then closes all application windows after the messages have been processed. So application.exit will close the complete application. You'll say, what do you mean complete or incomplete? Sometimes a form there may be more than one process is running, right? Then exit will completely close it. And there is another one, I think. No. Maybe it's in Visual Basic, not here. Maybe exit is the only one, but I think I have something in mind. Anyway, it will come back. Right, so application.exit. I can't recollect it, but I'm doing you another way. Something you can do it another way also. But this will completely close the application. Okay, so yes.
If you just want to close the form, just do this.close.
This dot close? Yeah. Okay. And that was I was trying with me.close, but it is this dot close. So if you just want to close the form, thanks Thomas. If you just want to close the form, this will work because you only have one form, but there's another one which calls this dot close. That's the one I was looking for, except I was going me. There it is. And if you bring your mouse, it will say closes the form. And now where and which one should you use? Just so that you know, the difference between the two is this dot close will just close the current form which is open, for which that's all we have. We only have one form, but it will come handy when you're working with a multi-form project and you only want to close a form. Whereas application.exit completely closes the whole application. That's the difference, right? So I was going me.close, I think, from VB. Now here anything will work for us because we only have one form in our application. Yes?
Is there like hides and stuff?
There is. We'll talk about hide and show and activate and deactivate. Yeah, there are. We will. When we come to a multi-form application, we'll talk about it. Right here, hide doesn't make a lot of sense. Hide will just hide it, but the application will still keep running. So again, whatever you prefer, but this dot close will come handy when you're working with a multi-form project. Application.exit just closes the whole application. Okay. Now the only one that is left is your print button. Now with the print button, and I'll have to again put my minds every time it's print. So please open up your toolbox. Now the print button, of course, you will write an event handler for it, but you will have to associate from your power packs the print form. Double click on print form, you'll say, but double clicking will get something. But let me show you what happens. When you click on print form, you will notice that a component called print form 1, that's its default name, is now in your component tray. Visually, you cannot see it. There's no visual effect of this print form, but it is an object. If you click on it and you open up your properties window, oh God, is my power packs, are you better than me? Do you see properties? No? No properties? Yeah, I had a problem with my power pack. So I'm thinking, is it something that is only in my, how many of you can see properties here for your, oh, you are the lucky ones then. Okay, something went wrong in ours then. Now, what could it be? I definitely had problem with my power packs. I had to reinstall them. But major, so only 4 of you are seeing it, right? Okay, now by any chance, no, it couldn't be. Okay, let me try something else. Okay, so the line shape is working. The line shape is working. Line shape is just, when I do a line shape, I see its properties and everything. So I tried line shape, seeing if something else. Line shape is just a line. You can use a line. If you wanted a line somewhere, you could kind of make it here, and that's a line shape I used. Okay, so that's not the problem. So what is wrong with print? Oh, there it is. No clue. Okay. No usable controls in the group. Okay, so something went wrong with the when you added it to your Visual Studio. So one way would be
everything was working in the other class, like it was all there, but now it's all gone on this side.
There won't be any check boxes because you've already installed it. It's already there. You should see them. Let's see what's happening.
No, like only the labels there for PowerPoint, but all the items that were
Are
like
not?
on there.
Okay, so let's try this. If you don't see anything and you want to power pack 2 for some reason. Okay. I don't think there has to be anything to be done with game at all. Let's try back. Right click on here. Go right click on here and say choose items. Choose items. So if you don't see anything in your power pack, see if you can revive it.
Just like I restarted the project, but it was all there the last class.
Yeah, and it shouldn't go. I made a mistake. I put them at the wrong place, so that's why I deleted them. But okay, how many of you have nothing in the power packs? Nothing. You don't have power packs. Okay, good.
I had yesterday.
Yesterday, okay, so here is something
I mean, I think I just installed it, but I haven't.
Yeah, I just had.
Sorry, come again? Okay, so try that. If it is not showing up, right click on the toolbox and then say something. Show something. Show all. Okay, so right click in the toolbox and say show all. Okay. So on your toolbox and say show all. So where did you put it last time? Do you remember the name? It's not there. Okay, so install it again. That's all I can say. Right? Not in that part, somewhere outside. And say add a tab and call it power pack. And then repeat the process that you did last week. Right? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so a few things that may help. So if you're not seeing it, you can go right click and say, I don't have a show all. So do you have a show all?
But it didn't show the power pack.
Okay, so show all. I have a show all. So do a show all, see if it comes up. No. Okay, so the second thing, try to install it again. How do you do that? Do you remember from last week? No? No. Pointer is the default. We need the print form from it. Okay, so then do this. You can add a new tab, do a right click and say choose items and get it back. That's another way, right? So add a new tab. So if you don't have power packs at all, add a new tab, add a tab. I've called it power packs. Once you have it, repeat the process of going right click and choose items. Remember last week we did it. Once you have choose items, then filter with power. Once we have it going. And mine are not, there are no check boxes now because I already have them. But you should see check boxes. If not, close and try again. I made a mistake. I had placed it at the wrong place, so I know it will come back. So let's do a cancel and see that you have it. And from in there, get your print form and get it here. And if you're having problems, you can do it during the break. But this is all I want to show you now. See what I have to do. Please look at the properties of print form 1. It says the name is print form 1. It's not bad for us. We are not going to do any kind of work with, coding with it. The second, it says print action. Notice a print action here. You change it from print to printer to print to preview, just so that you're not sending stuff to the printer. Okay, that's what it will do. The print action will send it to the printer. So I've changed it to print to preview.
How did you get the print form properties? Did you just click on
Oh, I just click in the component window here, in the component tray, click on it and the properties should come up. If for some reason they are not coming up, the magic that happened with me was I chose another one of these, a line shape, and got it on the form, and then it started. Like, I'm not sure like what's going on really, because Power Packs don't come with Visual Studio anymore, and it does create a little problem every time. Right? But if you're okay to start once or twice, then we'll be fine. Okay. Okay. Now what do you do? How do you say that I want to print my form to the printer, or I've changed it to print to preview. Please change it to print to preview, or print to a file if you want. So we'll only preview it. Now, how do we do it? Now double click on your print form button. So the process is choose a print form object. It will appear in your object tray, in your component tray it is called. It's a component. It's not a visual component. It's just a non-visual. Visual means you will see it on your GUI, which of course we don't see. We don't have a representation of it. That's your first job. Second, there's no need to change a name. You only need one print form object. Therefore, I've left the name at print form 1. It doesn't matter. We only need one object, irrespective of how many times you want to do anything. You can change its property. Click on it, and in its properties, change it. How do you want to print? Print to printer, print to preview, print to file. That's something I do because I don't want to send it to my printer. If you want to, that's perfectly fine. And now, how do I say that's what do I want to print? Okay, and for that, again, let's go here so that I don't forget it. What does the summary? This will print the form. And the sender is your print button. What did we call it? The print form button, I think we called it, right? And event arguments are just the event arguments. Okay, now how do you associate that print form? Give me a minute because these are all extras. Okay, what do? We go print form, I think, yeah, dot its document property. No, that's not it. Sorry?
You can just use dot print.
Doc print?
Dot print, yeah.
Dot print, okay. I'm trying to remember. Oh, so here is the other one that I was saying. You can change your print action from here also, but I change it in my property. So dot print. I forget because it's such a, hardly you ever do it. Print screen is something you use more often. Like you could use print screen. So that's why this, but why am I telling you then when you can use print screen? Because you should be aware that it is available, right? You should be aware that it is available, but you can always take a print of your form by using print screen on your machine. But it is available, therefore they have removed it from the installation. You have to install it yourself. It was there till 2030. Maybe they didn't find the need and therefore they removed it. So just so that you know it exists, I made you create a Power Packs or whatever you wanted to call it. I added some new controls I wanted. Line shape, oval shape are just shapes. Print form is the one that will print a form. So you just use the print method. Normal Java, do you notice? Opening, closing brackets. And please notice the name of the methods are using Pascal naming convention in C#. Pascal means it starts with a capital letter. And then every first letter of every word is capitalized. So method names use Pascal naming convention in C#. In Java, camel naming convention is used. So therefore, if I was saying when you remove the word button from front of it, the rest is Pascal. The button is just making it look like camel case. And because there is no set convention, that's how it is. So, but when you create your methods, please use Pascal naming convention. Pascal naming convention says the first letter of every word is in capital. That's what Pascal naming convention. Now, my code is ready. Let's see if it works, right? So save it and start it. All your buttons should work. Okay, so let's try English. And if you want to, okay. Now, what don't you like about this? The hello world is coming in kind of in the corner. So what should I do? I should take its text align property and do it center. And if you want to give it a different font, a different color, you can do whatever you like. So it's looking a little untidy, but there it is. Now, if you want to see the shorthand keys, please press your Alt key and then go Alt S. Right? To get these shorthand keys, please press your Alt key. They will appear. And then to use them, go Alt C to clear. Alt P to print. And since I've sent it to print preview, this is what is coming up, which is what we want, right? Your form is being printed. That's what print form does. And then to exit, you will press this. There it is. Everything works. All buttons are working. Now, the only thing that was a little untidy was this. In this label message, go to its properties, and in its text align property here, change it, make it middle, center. If you want to change its font, sure, go here. Make it a bigger bold if you like. I don't know, 10 size if you like. You can also change its fore color. You can change its fore color from here. Whatever you like. So I've changed its font, I've changed its fore color, I've changed its alignment. That's what I've done. I've changed 3 properties of it. There it is, right? There it is, and there it is. Works? Works for everybody? What isn't coming up? There, everything is on GitHub now. So we'll take a break of 20 minutes, have your lunch, come back, and so will I, and then I'll give you your first in-class assignment. Okay? That's not what is there. This name is exam. These are this is your text. Okay, can you show me the name? What if you change the name That's what it was called. And you change the name after. So therefore I said you can remember how we said to right click, select the name. To right click, rename. You must rename and identify. Is it running by any chance? Is your program Yeah, that will do, but I was looking for an easy way, right? Why do it at two places? Okay. What happened? What is it? Okay. Okay, so now we want to rename it update to references. It's modified and highlighted. Okay, so let's say comments doesn't matter to us. Okay, now rename it. Whatever you want to call it. I'll be back. So you had his hand up first. Yes. So that's what you put. Okay, run it again and I see.
Nothing related to code. I just looked it up over my class. I don't know.
Okay. Can you provide and doc? Doc as a tag document. Doc as a tag document. Okay? Just doc it. See which one was the stack. Does docking work or doc as a parent or something? Yeah, because I don't know when you did a load.
Sorry?
So,
You got it set up?
yeah, but there is no load method. You see, there is no load. You don't have it. And here you are saying load. Oh my goodness, you can this. Okay, so comment that. You don't need it. What are you saying? You have some, by mistake, you double click on your form. So when you double click on your form, a load method was created. Then you just removed it from it.
On principle.
Okay, so let's delete it. Let's delete this. Delete this. Delete this now. Okay. Okay, go ahead and now go back to the design. There are build error, it says. So how will it be? There are compilation error, it says. Two output. Oh, okay, this is to do something with your. This is not your code. It is something to do with your files. Like something on your in your directories, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. This I can. You have to look at. You can Google it. Now here, dragging and dropping will not work in Visual Basic. In Visual Studio. Yeah. Where did you place them? Where did you save your file? Okay. So I'm not sure what you're doing then, right? Because you are not sure what you're doing. So is this your project?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's close this. Project close. Close your Visual Basic.
Because you
Just
can
close.
only
Okay, now let's double click on it. Let's go inside. Oh, yeah. So this is an incomplete one. That's why the problem is lying. This is not a complete folder. So how did you start? What did you do? Where did you pick it up?
I just want to read Visual Studio.
Okay. And
Go to
then
the- go to your CS. Go to your CS.
when you went to file, new, what did you create here?
Why you? No.
But where did you have this project solution before? From last week?
Yeah. I just read this.
Okay, so this is the one that we're not the one that you showed me. This is different from what you've shown me in Visual 2017. They're two different things. Okay, this should be okay. Let's try this. Unless there is something else going on here. Yeah, they're still pretty. Yeah, you are in the same problem. Say no, I don't know. This is to do, you have to Google it. This is something to do with your output file name resolved to the same output. Welcome these sources. So let's go to your. Show me where you just the folder that you just made. Not this one, the other one. One from where you got the .sln file. You're not sure. Okay. There is where it's saying in your resource. Okay, open up this studio here. Let's go to project. Project properties. In your resources. Yeah, but where are you coming from? That's what I want to see. Okay. Let's come back to it. I don't know. Let's come back to you. To tell you where up to. Let's say file again. With source and repos. Click on the folder. This is where it is now. Okay, so let's go to this one. Users man sources. That is default.
Because I went this way.
You can click on that. Let's now click inside that welcome. Somewhere it is saying here that you have two output files by the same. So let's go into object. D1. Let's see if there is a .exe file. Okay, so let's remove this welcome.exe. I don't know. I'm just trying to delete this. Let's try to go back to what we used to do. Saying something about output files, okay? And I'm trying my best to see what I can do. Let's start. No, same now. So you'll have to Google it and see what it is. The message that comes up, Google it and see what it is. Yes, you can try, but sometimes you do encounter these problems. And how I worked around it, if I can remember from years before, I had removed the exe file. That was what was creating the problem, and then it was fine. But that's not working here. So I tried what worked for me. Okay. So you'll have to go and maybe try and look for it.
Just trying to identify the You put it in touch with another class.
And right upstairs? Oh, that's good.
So I just need to figure out this stage for I was on the best name, so I'm trying to get this. And probably just be a use of You can know this here. Say, if you're formatting. Alright, so something there's a yellow bar. Yellow bar, right? Yeah, I don't know why the outcome
Taxes are pretty much okay. I don't know. Worried. No, that makes worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
They've been sitting there.
I was gonna just say, questions. Did you change something?
I ended up. You
have to go on.
Oh, we had that actual. Okay, that'll do it.
We would at least see them, yeah, the direct it's still doable, but yeah. It is. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.